financially in shambles. His living arrangements is in shambles. His whole life is in shambles right now. He had no upbringing. Like, this problem started a long time ago. I don't know how he even got this far in life.
We all know Orlando Brown, a fresh-faced child star who rose to fame on the Disney Channel show That's So Raven. But have you heard the harrowing tale of how Orlando lost his career, his friends and family, and possibly his mind? Orlando's shocking appearance on Dr. Phil highlighted just how bad things have really become for the once rising talent. I mean, this dude said some wild stuff. Michael Jackson is his father? How many children does this guy have, and why on earth hasn't he met them? After years of mayhem, Orlando finally came to Dr. Phil for help, but could Dr. Phil stop the train wreck? Okay, you're not gonna believe what happened after he left Disney Channel, but let me get you up to speed from the start. So Orlando Brown began acting early, scoring his first major role in the 1995 comedy Major Payne as the adorable cadet Kevin, aka Tiger, Dune. He was only 7 years old when the film premiered. Soon after, that adorable little face and natural talent landed him a spot on several different sitcoms, from Family Matters to Moesha, and even The Jamie Foxx Show. Orlando was quickly becoming a well-known child star. Once he bagged a contract with Disney and voiced characters for the Proud Family and Fillmore, the sky was the limit. But everything he worked for culminated in one beloved role: Eddie Thomas from the hit show That's So Raven. Orlando's glory days on the show ran from 2003 to 2007, but that's when things started to take a turn in Orlando's life. 2007 also marked his first run-ins with the police. It started small. He was caught with marijuana and arrested at 19 years old. That same year, Orlando left the Disney Channel to focus on his music career. His departure from the channel left everyone wondering, did Disney force Orlando out after he got in trouble? Even though he had 12 years of acting experience under his belt by the time he left, Orlando's prospects dried up as his life became more and more chaotic. But marijuana was child's play compared to what came next. Well, okay, not child's play, poor choice of words, but you get what I mean. After leaving Disney, Orlando's career wasn't exactly taking off like he planned. He had a particularly difficult losing streak in 2011 after getting arrested again for a DUI. In 2014, Orlando kicked things up a notch. He got arrested again after threatening to kill a North Hollywood woman who claimed he was stalking her. In a recording, you can literally hear him saying,
"I killed you, your mama, your daughter, and everybody."
Woo! What happened to Eddie? Someone please find me Eddie. Anyway, Orlando's poor choices began to collapse around him. From 2016 to 2018, the boy was a hot mess. After a domestic altercation with his then girlfriend, Orlando was discovered with, yep, you guessed it, crystal meth. Okay, no, you're right. That did escalate pretty quickly. But it didn't end there. He was arrested again with crystal meth in 2018, this time having moved up the glorious drug business ladder from just taking the stuff to selling it. I know. You probably think it ended there, that he went on Dr. Phil, turned his life around, and lived happily ever after, right? Okay, no, it got even worse. Because all the attention from the law wasn't enough, he went public with some pretty gross stories, claiming he and co-star Raven-Symoné had a sexual relationship as teenagers while working together at the Disney Channel. He also released his own sex tape at this time, which didn't exactly premiere to the roaring applause that he hoped for. Jeez, this guy just doesn't know when to stop. In a bizarre incident right before his appearance on Dr. Phil, he found himself in a cop car again after breaking into his childhood friend's restaurant and changing the locks. While talking to Dr. Phil about the incident, Orlando's story didn't exactly line up with what the cops said about the details.
What were you arrested for?
Oh man, recently that was trespassing on basically my own property.
The truth is, Legends on the Strip is a restaurant owned by Orlando's childhood friend Danny Boy of Death Row Records fame. Danny told TMZ he was giving Orlando a place to sleep as he had just been released from the hospital 2 weeks before and didn't have anywhere else to go. So how did this man go from child star to spending more time with the cops than his own family, to chatting it up with Dr. freaking Phil? And somehow, if you thought anything up to this point was somewhat bizarre, you are not ready for what happened on Dr. Phil. Well, his friend and manager Solomon Barron decided to bring him on the show in a desperate attempt to help the poor guy. Solomon detailed the problems to Dr. Phil.
He's financially in shambles. His living arrangements is in shambles. His whole life is in shambles right now.
Orlando was all smiles when he met Dr. Phil, but the proof of his crystal meth addiction was a little too obvious, as his teeth were clearly pretty damaged. And we're not talking about the damage that you get from eating just a little too much sugar. It was obvious right away that things weren't going well for the man. He was wearing novelty contacts that looked like alien eyes, and he claimed it was a tribute to Michael Jackson, his father. Yep, Dr. Phil was just as befuddled as we are about that claim, asking why he thinks Michael Jackson was his father. So Orlando said that Michael was very talented and that he was very talented, and so the resemblance was obvious. But Orlando claimed several members of Michael Jackson's family confirmed the suspicions. He even went so far as to say that Neverland Ranch was his property and his father would have wanted him to have it. Whew. Later on in the interview, Orlando said all he wanted was to get his kids and go to the Neverland Ranch. Dr. Phil tried to sneakily expose Orlando's confusion and asked how many kids he had. First, Orlando claimed to have
quite a bit, but 4 that I know of.
Orlando elaborated that he had a 2-year-old daughter named Shyla, a 5-year-old named Orlando Jr., an 11-year-old, and one that's 16 or 18. He wasn't sure. He said he hadn't met them all yet, and that's why he didn't know their names. When Dr. Phil confronted Orlando about his obvious confusion, he got defensive and denied he even had a problem. He did admit that he used to have a problem, but claimed to be 4 years sober. Orlando says he's doing the work and he's at peace. He's just trying to get back to work, see his kids again, and get his whole family together at Neverland Ranch. Okay, sorry. Dr. Phil again asked how many children he has. This time, Orlando said a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and an 11-year-old. Dr. Phil asked for specifics about their names, and this time,
2-year-old, still in the belly. Still in the belly, we don't know yet.
Because Dr. Phil is a smooth operator, he casually sidestepped that strange remark and asked Orlando for his kid's name just one more time. And what do you know? Orlando stumbles over a completely different answer than the one he gave before. Dr. Phil tried to reason with him, showing him notes of the strange answer he gave only 30 minutes apart. He also pointed out that a 2-year-old child can't possibly be still in the belly. It was honestly a hard moment to watch. Orlando was obviously uncomfortable and confused. He offered a rambling explanation about having his kids taken away and never getting to meet them in the first place, but at this point, we know you can't trust a word the man says. Orlando is living in his own strange version of reality. That said, in the world the rest of us live in, it's also slightly unclear just how many children he has. He does have a daughter named Journey with ex-fiancée Brianna Sherrill, who was born only a few months before Orlando's Dr. Phil appearance. Orlando's ex, Omeen Alexandria, insists her son Hunter is Orlando's child, but Orlando has at times denied even this. Hunter would have been 2 years old at the time of the Dr. Phil interview. Now, it's important to note that Orlando was appearing on Dr. Phil only 11 years after his time on the show That's So Raven. Having an 11, 16, or 18-year-old child isn't impossible, but it seems unlikely. So even though Orlando's rambling explanation made little sense, it's fair to say we're all still unclear exactly how many children Orlando has fathered. Back on the Dr. Phil show, the team pushed Orlando toward accepting treatment at a facility in Malibu, and Orlando was hostile about the idea. He even stormed off stage, where the team continued to push Orlando for another hour. By the end of this exhausting show, Orlando seemed to agree to accept help, and Dr. Phil reported Orlando had entered a dual diagnosis facility receiving treatment, and they all lived happily ever after. Right? Right? Okay, spoiler alert, unfortunately the tragic tale didn't stop there. Despite Dr. Phil's positive post-show recap, Orlando needed more time until he was ready to seriously commit to treatment. Orlando later said at the time he felt tricked into doing the show and that he felt ambushed.
I was a pompous jerk and I thought that I didn't need it. When I allowed myself to open up to the program, it worked.
Orlando eventually did open up to the program and graduated from a 6-month inpatient recovery program in Texas. It was a faith-based program, and Orlando credited his then-girlfriend, later wife Danielle, for introducing him to the idea. The pair share a son, a real son, by the way, who was the baby in the belly Orlando mentioned to Dr. Phil. So hey, it looks like he did tell at least one truth in his time on Dr. Phil. But Orlando's struggle with mental health didn't seem to be over. Last March, Orlando ranted in a now deleted Instagram video that his wife hadn't been home in 6 months. The mayhem just never ends with this dude. I'm honestly banking on this all turning into a beautiful biopic one day after his rise from the ashes to star in a hit film and get his life back, RDJ style. But what do you think? Was coming on the Dr. Phil show a turning point for Orlando? Do you think his career is ripe for a comeback? Let us know in the comments, and if you think this video is crazy, you are not ready for this next one.